Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and just different building strategies that you could use to improve your building speed. So for this video, I'm going to be focusing more on turning, and when you go for turns, there's a few things you can do, and the most common thing you do is when you're going for high ground, of course you want to do a double 90, but I'm talking about when you do a double 90 or maybe just do a single 90 and you want to kind of branch out from there. So one of the things that you can do, I do this a ton in build fights and just other things like that, it is basically you go off, and once you branch off, you want to put 2 ramps and then you want to put 2 pyramids on top. And the reason you put 2 pyramids, because a lot of the times when you're ramping up, you're going to have someone ramping up the same time. Usually, most of the time, they're not going to be right in front of you. They're kind of be off to the side a little bit. So when you put that second pyramid, it's going to cuck them and not allow them to build, because once you have your pyramid up, they're not going to be able to put their ramp. They can't put their pyramid, so it's really going to mess them up if you have your pyramid up. So this is a little bit more difficult to do and takes a little bit of practice, but when you go to do it, this is what you want to do. Is once you go up, you want to branch off the 2 ramps to the left first. And the reason why you want to go to the left first, it's a lot easier than going to the right, because when you go to the right, you kind of have to stretch it out a little bit. And most of the times I just end up messing it up. So when you're going for the double 90 and you turn to the right, then that is when you want to put the ramp out to the left. And once you put the ramps up, then you want to put the pyramids. You want to go from left to right first. And the reason why you want to go from left to right first is because it's going to be a lot easier, because you don't have to drag it back over unless you have a really high building sensitivity. So when you go up, of course, go to the left first, and then once you're on the left, you come back over to the right. That is the easiest way to do it, and that's what's going to make it easier to do. And of course, this is a little bit more difficult. I mess it up a ton. I can't get it perfect every single time. But if you can master something like this, you're going to be a lot faster builder, because once you master some things that are a lot harder, the easier things just get that much easier. And one thing you can do is when you're doing that build, if it's a little bit more difficult, you feel like you're cucking yourself too much, there's one thing that you can do that's really going to help you guys out. First off, if you feel like you keep missing the edit, then what you want to do is just practice without the turn. It's going to make it a lot easier and just give you practice on that part alone. And when you're going for it, what's going to buy yourself a lot of time that's really helpful that I don't think a lot of people have touched on is when you're ramping up. If you ramp up straight, that is going to give you the least amount of time to get that edit off. But if you feel like you're not going to be able to get that edit off, or you just don't have enough time, what you want to do is you want to run around the side. And when you do this, you don't want to go straight up. You kind of want to go in the diagonal direction, because once you go in that diagonal direction, it's going to be slower. It's going to take more time for your player to go for the edit. But a lot of times in build fights, that extra split second that it takes for you to go over to the side instead of straight up really isn't going to cost you. But running in that diagonal direction instead of straight really does buy you a ton of time, and it just makes it a lot easier to get that edit off for those of you guys who feel like you can't get that edit off. And one thing that I touched on earlier, when you're doing this, of course you want to branch out to the left, because it's going to be a lot easier to do so. Because if you try to branch out to the right, it's a little bit of a stretch, and it's going to be a lot more difficult to get that ramp off. But one other turn that you can do, if you already have high ground, you want to use the other one when you're kind of low ground, you're kind of at the exact same height, or you're trying to get above the other player, and that's when you want to put the pyramid. But if you're already going for a high ground and you have the high ground, one thing you can do is once you branch off and put the 2 ramps, then you can put the floor and you can also put the walls. And if you get really good at this build, it's going to be very difficult for other players to shoot you out. And if they try to shoot you out, it's going to take them a long time unless they have, explosives, turrets, any of that cheese right there. Then they're going to break it easier, but it's going to take them a lot more time to get that shot off if you can put all of the builds together. Because a lot of times in games, if you're going through it fast, you might mess it up a little bit and you might leave some part open. Maybe you forget to put a wall, forget to put a floor, because you're not going to get it perfect every single time. And that's why it's really important to practice in playgrounds, just working on building. Because if you can master something like that, if you can master these builds, you're going to be that much faster of a builder, and it's going to be very difficult for people to outbuild you when it comes to going for high ground, just preventing yourself from getting shot out. Any of those things right there, you're going to have a big advantage on every player that you go against. And when you're doing this, once you branch out, you're going to be putting the ramps from right to left, and then you want to go back left to right with the floor panels, and then right to left back with the walls. Because if you do in any other order, it's going to be a little bit more difficult unless you have some crazy high building sensitivity, which I would definitely not recommend, because it's going to be very difficult to aim afterwards, because your aim is going to be all over the place if your building sensitivity is really high and then your normal sensitivity is really low.
Search for you, stay lost. It's